And we'll be meeting these people.
The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, and we're handing out AIDS literature.
Yeah. They are the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, AIDS campaigners who dress as nuns to try to shock people into listening to their safe sex message. Well, do they go too far? You can decide after the news.
Welcome back. In a few minutes we'll be meeting the AIDS campaigners who dress up as nuns to get their message across. The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence have been called insulting, perverted, irreligious and heretical, but they say it's the only way to make people sit up and take notice. You can make up your own mind. But first, Teddy Bear, I can't wait to get that one. Now, Sunday is World AIDS Day, and all sorts of people will be giving their time and their money to raise awareness of the disease and to help its victims. One group who will be doing it in their own inimitable style are the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. They come from California and have members all over the world, and they claim to have been the first AIDS campaigners. Their critics, however, say their antics simply alienate people.
Hello there, how are you? We're the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. We're passing out AIDS awareness information. It's now World AIDS Week. December 1st is World AIDS Day.
Oh, I wasn't hard. No, that's all right. No, I waited until I got married before I had sex, so I'm all right, thank you.
Now, those people out on the street there were really quite surprised to see. Now, I have to say, frankly, I'm incredulous. I know putting over your aims and your campaign is one thing, but why do you have to dress up like that?
Well, it's a theatrical expression. We use theater to educate, and I think nuns come down the tradition of the court jester, the clown, the mime, and we use theatrics to get people's attention, and then we slip the very serious message to them.
But these outfits actually will offend people, and therefore you're making enemies rather than friends who will understand your cause, aren't you?
Well, certainly there are other issues we addressed other than AIDS. One is the hypocrisy of the church. For example, the church frequently is heard to say, "Let him who is without sin cast the first stone." And yet they're extremely critical of homosexuality, and I think they should really eat their own words.
You're definitely determined to shock, aren't you? You're even shocking me, and you're shocking everybody who's watching. Why do you want to shock so much?
I think because, like, particularly around AIDS, there's so much denial and there's so much barrier, and people have difficulty dealing with especially sexual kinds of issues. And
well,
sometimes
AIDS is a shocking situation.
Absolutely.
And it requires shocking activities in order to solve this problem.
Do you think shock is the best way to persuade people? Is not a reasonable, logical argument?
No, behind the habit is the serious logical argument. This is just the honey to attract, because it does get attention. There's no way when we walk down the street or approach people that they're not going to take notice of us.
And people who know us realize we are serious and logical. Once we have their attention, the best teachers are people who can entertain.
Yes, I agree with you. My best teachers were too. But I know your message is serious. I know your campaign is serious, and indeed we all take AIDS and gay rights seriously. But even I, who I think are moderately enlightened, can't get past your appearance. So most people will be, I mean, I'm still thinking about your appearance instead of your serious arguments.
Well, I think the critical word there that you said was moderate. Maybe your moderation is part of the problem. You see, people are moderately educated about AIDS, but that is not going to solve the problem. They have to be extremely, extremely educated about AIDS.
You know,
and also you really need to look at the facts. The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence have been doing this for nearly 13 years. It's very hard to keep anything going for 13 years. And so, yes, there are people who will be shocked and not be able to get beyond the theatrical parody that we're doing. But we have an enormous following worldwide.
We did the very first AIDS pamphlet, this is it, anywhere in the world in 1980. We did the very first AIDS benefit anywhere in the world in 1980, before AIDS was even, the acronym was even conceived.
In fact, the first AIDS patient in the world to go public was a boy named Bobby Campbell who called himself the AIDS poster boy, and Time magazine put his face on the cover of Time. He was Sister Florence Nightmare, RN. And the sisters have always been on that very cutting edge with AIDS education and awareness.
And
Just
it's
one
not
moment, just
in
one.
spite
I
of
know
our
you want to. I
costumes.
know you want to use this program as a soapbox, but just a minute. You have been accused of being perverted, irreligious, heretical. We on this program have been accused of being perverted for having you on. Now, that upsets people.
Well, the perversion really comes from the people who see what we do as a perversion. This is not.
But that's half the people, at least half the people you're trying to convince. Why do you want to upset people so much? It doesn't seem to me that it's a good way of getting your message across.
I
Well,
don't think
people have to
activism
get.
is a polite thing. We're dealing with this in Los Angeles a lot with our demonstrations and stuff. The heterosexual community keeps wanting gay and lesbian people to be polite and to project an image of which they approve. And we're a very diverse and broad community, and we have a history and a tradition in the gay community of theater and performance, and we're an extension of that.
Many people want us to go politely to our hospital beds. We will not go politely to our hospital beds.
But you know, some of the gay community actually criticize you. They
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yes, and they say that you are trivializing their cause and that you are not making AIDS into a serious...
Well, then I ask them, what have they done in 13 years? Does it match the amount of work and sacrifice that we have done?
Let me give you an example of something we did recently. In San Francisco at Halloween in the Castro District, 200,000 people come into the Castro District on Halloween night. It's primarily heterosexual people who descend on the gay community one night a year to gawk. They don't costume, they don't participate. They used to get drunk, and then they would bash the gay people after the event was over when they got drunk. The sisters took that event and they harnessed it, turned it into an AIDS fundraiser and an educational campaign about violence and bashing. And we welcomed the heterosexuals to our community, said, welcome to our community. We're going to put on the show you came to see, but we're going to teach you some things about AIDS and about the bashing and the violence.
And the habit is intrinsic. It's not
We've
an
got to end very
opposition.
soon. Well, you're participating in World's AIDS Day on Sunday.
Yes, we are.
May I wish you good luck with your campaign, and I hope you achieve what you want to.
And I love your makeup.
Oh, don't they just know how to take the wind out of your sails?